pleasure to talk to you about this film. I think there's something quite fascinating about those flawed characters like Kenny Wells. Was it majorly the appeal for you? You know, you just take those and put them on such a ride in the film.
When I first read the script, you know, I got to around page 4 or 5. I knew Matthew was going to play the main character, and I knew I was in. I knew I wanted to make it. And I actually had a vision that we would make it. I knew it was going to happen. After a lot of movies that I was involved in that just sort of weren't going to happen, I just had a feeling. And I felt like, I felt deeply that the flaws of the character were right for our times. You know, that he was a guy who really believed that he had to succeed in order to matter, that he had to be someone in the world, that he wanted to be known, and that being known, being famous, being the man would fill up this part inside of him. I think that everybody who tries to do something, whether it's find a gold mine, make a movie, feels that way a little bit, you know, because you can't give up. And so what's driving you? What's driving you to make a movie when it's everybody's saying, you're an idiot, we're not making this movie, we're not making this movie. And you're like, we're making this movie.
The laws of attraction.
Or I'm going to die. You know, that's...
I hope you don't.
But that's how you feel.
Yes, and there's something quite fascinating about the notion also of dreaming and, you know, how you have to dream and how you never should give up on dreams, even the most crazy ones.
It's the most important thing. I mean, in what I do, my unconscious, you know, the dreams or what I dream about when I'm asleep, they deeply influence the work, you know, like when you're working on a film, you wake up with the thoughts already going, the movie's playing before you're awake. It's already happening, you know, and that's a deep thing. And I think for the character Kenny Wells, he dreamed of gold, you know, he dreamed of mountains filled with gold. You know, his background as a character is that his father, his grandfather, they're men who would go out into the mountains, into the wilderness, and find a fortune, you know, and that's what built the American West. It's what built many, many countries around the world, is finding minerals under the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. When you have someone like Matthew McConaughey who can carry a movie like this because it's so centered on this roller coaster character, how much does it make the job more enjoyable as well to go on that ride together?
Well, I really looked at this movie as a biopic. I looked at it like you would think of Gandhi or Lawrence of Arabia. You know, it's a biopic about a man, a type of man who doesn't usually get a biopic about him. I was like, there's a crowd of people, that guy, we're going to tell his story as if he's Lawrence of Arabia or Gandhi, you know, and we're going to follow him and we're going to go with him for better or worse. And so the entire movie was predicated on that. And I felt like, you know, anytime I was in a scene and maybe it wasn't quite going right, I would talk to the cinematographer, Robert Elswit, and I'd be like, let's go to a close-up of Matthew. We're just going to go to Kenny Wells, and we're going to see what's happening. We're just going to see what's going on in here.
Yeah.
And it always made it work.
No, absolutely. And I think it's interesting that, you know, maybe 40 years ago, Hollywood would not have produced a film about a flawed character. It was always about the unflawed ones. It's interesting how now, you know, the villains and the flawed ones are the interesting ones you want to see on screen. Do you agree?
I do agree. I think there are exceptions, you know. When I was starting to work on this film, I was thinking about 2 films in particular. One of them was Midnight Cowboy by John Schlesinger, which I think is from around 1970. And the other one was The Last Detail, which is a Hal Ashby film written by Robert Towne, starring Jack Nicholson. And both those movies have small characters, people that you wouldn't think about normally, who are flawed, but wonderful. Very American in their DNA. And I thought, you know, this is a good time to try to do this again. You know, maybe it's coming around full circle. And it turned out to be right, but it's, you know, you never know with these kind of movies. I mean, it's like, I'm telling you, it's touch and go, right? Until you're on set with the camera rolling in the jungle, it's not really happening.
It's like the gold rush.
Even then, it's like you need 5 days in the can before you believe it.